Right then, welcome back to the Foxhole. Foxtrotting in a Foxhole. What would this be? Season 10, Episode 13, number 301 overall. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan, coming to you on a fantastic Friday from Eagle's Nest 2, Studio A. Back out in the big room again. Yeah. As always, we thank the folks at Broad, Zoom, Botenzik. So many folks that have the gear. You want to be on the podcast? Aftershocks, which we just published an episode, what was that? I think Wednesday, number 30. Wrapping up season 1. SJ gets down. Got any ideas for her podcast? She's always open. You want to be on it as a guest and talk about something? The scene, which is always in development. So you contact us. What would it be? FTINFX@gmail.com or call the hotline 541-525-0896. We'd love to hear from you. All right, folks. Now that we got that all out of the way, let's get episode 301 on the tracks. And we're going to start with we don't do a monologue. We just do open face, where we just talk about whatever, for those of you who might be new to the Foxhole experience as we're trying to get our reach. And yeah, the other plug is please like the YouTube channel. And I was late getting last week's episode up, but it'll be up when I publish this one, so tell your friends. Just give it a like and subscribe. That's all we're asking for. It doesn't cost you anything, and you won't get spam because I don't roll like that. Okay. We talked about some of this in Aftershocks. Spent a little bit of the whole Bad Bunny madness that took America this week and the manipulation of data to the point of what you can believe and what you probably shouldn't. Maybe the truth somewhere in between with these people. Who knows? It wasn't game changing. It was more stupidity on all fronts is what I'm seeing with this. I mean, it's still out there in a residual way. I mean, I've heard on one end of the spectrum, this is one reason the NFL is cooked. From other folks, this is where the NFL is bulletproof. And both can be true in this one. I don't know how that's possible, how you can be cooked and still be bulletproof. But somehow the NFL is pulling it off. And no shortage of silliness in the Bay Area over the weekend. I haven't had a chance to completely unpack this one yet. But it was after party. And as I was telling my bro Jeff, didn't the Ray Lewis incident, what was that, way back in 2000? Shouldn't have taught these gentlemen to probably stay away from Super Bowl parties? And I'm not sure if it was his party in the case of Keon White, but there was an argument with him and the rapper Little Baby or their entourage, and because everybody's strapped and gotta have protection and muscle. Somehow he got shot. Clearly nothing fatal, but once again, these big events, and even in the chill Bay Area. But if you know the Bay Area, and if you know the Bay Area, there are some not so chill elements about it, just like every major urban center. Anyway, I don't even know who Little Baby is. Maybe I should, but I still know this, that if you didn't learn after what happened to Ray Lewis, better to sit with your friends like we did. We had a great Super Bowl party up here at the Eagle's Nest. From the show next door, Andy G always throws with great food and great folks. SJ Gets Down was there. So, anyways, no Little Baby, no shooting, no Kid Rock. Just watch the game and some commercials that apparently weren't that great to a lot of people. There's a lot of interesting data coming out of the Super Bowl. One would be that the Nevada Gaming Commission reports a 10-year low for Super Bowl bets placed. Well, gee, go figure. One, it's Seattle. And as good as Seattle is, as we said on Aftershocks the other day, give them their props. And New England, which most of America, casuals and hardcore sports fans equate the Patriots with Belichick and Brady. They're like, oh, not this movie again. And don't forget about Mr. Kraftkin. So I get that. But shit, with all these other things going on, which I mentioned the other day, I mean, there was a prop bet on, or a prop future on Marky Mark showing up to the Super Bowl because he's from Boston. So with all this online stuff, of course, the books in Nevada taking a beating. I can see a dip. And this is why they put every bit of muscle into keeping online gaming away from everyone. Because they had a huge monopoly. Stands the reason. But yeah, that's not surprising. But 10-year low, that's alarming, and it's probably going to continue to go south, the numbers. Especially, well, let's put it this way. Maybe if there were curbs on proposition betting, which we've spoke about recently, if that happens, and maybe you can still do that in Vegas, then maybe there's going to be an uptick. But otherwise, with the proliferation of online gambling and the youth figuring out a way to circumvent the age restrictions, British Petroleum, as they say. Okay, so we know tomorrow, because I'm doing this on a Friday, is Valentine's Day. Next year, Super Bowl 61. On a Sunday, Valentine's Day. Pushed back a week further, moving ever closer to President's Day, even though there's a lot of resistance about that. But imagine what a circus this is going to be. Valentine's time and the Super Bowl. There's either going to be some good loving or there's going to be some wild breakups. Oh, man. Okay. We're going to try to keep it light and happy. Did you see the whole Drew Brees Hall of Fames? How he was informed? Wasn't that one of the coolest and cutest things you will come across maybe this year? Yeah, a salty person like me, I was just like, wow, that's cool. You know, and how his kids said they wanted to go out to dinner with him and had them all jacked and going. And then everybody was loafing around, basically not making the date happen. And then somebody knocks on the door. You know, pretty cool stuff. Gets told that he's in the Hall of Fame. I mean, obviously, you had to see the clip to really get how rich it was. But in the world of some pretty salty stuff, especially with this Hall of Fame controversy, it was nice to see a moment that put a smile on people's faces. Groovy, groovy. Oh, but there is hot sauce, though, this week. You know, I got some more data about this one today. Because if I first saw it, if you follow the sports world, especially the NFL, you know that Mr. Joey Porter Sr. and Big Ben Roethlisberger are kind of beefing and somehow throw James Harrison, Debo into it all. And basically, folks throwing each other on the bus, and Big Ben wasn't a great teammate. There's a lot to unpack with this one. You know, especially Roethlisberger and his troubled history. You know, not only the bad behavior narrative, but him getting into it with Bradshaw. But then again, I just watched Elway. I've been getting a lot of viewing on Netflix, and the whole thing he had with Bradshaw. So I'm like, well, shit, this Bradshaw can have a beef with every young quarterback that doesn't show the team the proper respect, especially after what he went through. Yeah, but I saw something interesting about this beef with Big Ben and everybody trashing on him. I was watching a Whitlock show, and he had like the Korean Cosell. I forget the other lad who's also funny, the Steelers Laker guy, and obviously Coach JB, it being a Friday. And he said, you know what, I'm not buying one bit of this shit with Joey Porter. It's all staged and it's all about creating hype for your brand. I said, well, that makes sense. Like the stupid, asinine takes that Emmanuel Acho seems to drop every time. And what? Shadur Sanders, the weirdo's king, how folks are manufacturing clicks by trying to make him great or saying something disparaging about him. Yeah. So I hadn't thought about it at first, but when it comes to this Joey Porter and Big Ben thing, I'm definitely on board with it. This is just plotting information to get clicks for your brand and creating some hype about you. Because especially since you don't play anymore, it's more about your son. Hey, why not get a little shine on me? Because you know everybody's got a podcast, and I know it's terrible. It's more hot sauce. These tacos are going to taste good. Puka Nakua. Yeah, that Puka Nakua. Not happy with the LA crowds at Rams games. A lot to unpack with this one as well. Okay. I have to be careful how I approach this one. Clearly, I've gone to Rams games in the old, before they went to St. Louis. This is not good. This is cut through the BS. And I haven't been since they came back, first at the Coliseum and now at the beautiful SoFi Stadium. And so it's hard for me to get a pulse on LA like I used to. Because, obviously did my time in the City of Angels, Cal State, Northridge, Matadors, forever. And, a lot of Rams fans. But I don't know with this, in this decade, especially that the Chargers have been a decent product and a considerable amount of Charger fans. I think they've warmed up to the Chargers in LA more than the Clippers, and the Clippers, who, built some fandom as well, as much as I never wanted to admit that. But I'm not surprised. I know certain folks when it comes to the Chargers, well, they're not Charger fans, but hey, they put the seats up in the aftermarket. And I'm sure that's a commonplace in many stadiums, especially when you're not good, which the Rams are, which is kind of a head scratcher. And we know LA likes its winners, but I have to wonder at this point that it's so boutique and it's so easy to make money on the away fans because of the away experience if you're holding, or if you're doing everything hook and crook to make sure you don't miss a minute of the team's games because you want to win Super Fan of the Year. It's easy because you may say that. So a lot of times when the 49ers are there, it's basically Levi South. Of course, Seattle's right now saying, oh, we've turned Levi's into Lumen South. But it's really true when you see the amount of red in SoFi. I know as a Commanders fan, the Redskins football team, whatever you want to call it, especially in the years of Dan Snyder, the Giants, Eagles, Steelers come into town, and it's probably 70-30, given the close proximity of all those major municipalities right there in the I-95 corridor. So I totally get it in terms of people going, wow, do I really want to sit and watch this? In our case, with the Rams, a little bit harder. The Rams have won a Super Bowl in McVay's era, lost another one, and in general have been a good team. So maybe this is it's just a state of the times. I'd rather make a buck than be loyal. Or, as many people have said, F them for leaving in the first place. And I'm not sure I want to give my money, time, and energy to supporting them. And there is a certain amount of that in the City of Angels. Okay, I'll move on. I probably rambled way more than I wanted to on that. It's that kind of day. So this is another one, interesting one that came across the pike. That when I read this bullet point for it, Shannon Sharp plotting a return to first take, or first fake as we like to call it, with a smile on our face. And today, watching the same show earlier, they said that maybe they are warming the seat up because Stephen A. Smith is really about to announce his candidacy for president in 2028. Yeah, I know, this world's getting stranger and stranger. And of course, this would be a great ramp to bring Shannon back now that, because we have a short memory of his freaky deaky and all that other weird shit. And any angry feminists are too busy fighting ICE and Trump to like sit there and call him out, so they could bring him back. But Stephen A. Smith running for president, we don't even know what party that is. We're going to wait to unpack that one. I'm just more curious to see about Shannon Sharp making his way back to mainstream. Because clearly, the Cam Newton clown show is not making it. I'm not saying that Barstool is making any traction and Collins on afterwards. So they still own that spot, but I think they're losing out where you've got folks watching Whitlock, JB and Smitty and other folks that are on at that. At least on, on the West Coast, 6 to say 10 in the morning, all that content to go against some of these traditional platforms on, we'll just say our mainstream platforms as far as like Comcast or like TV and all that crap, Colin, what's his face, the other guy on ESPN, who I never have time for him. Anyway, let me move on to this one. So Daytona 500 is coming up Sunday, Great American Race. We'll get the corner man back in the Foxhole to discuss all of motorsports soon enough. But here's one just for a smile. What's this I'm hearing this week that there at once upon a time, Jessica Simpson? Yeah, that Jessica Simpson, those boots were definitely made for walking, especially before she went crazy and almost wrecked herself with a lot of booze. According to Junior, when I say Junior, Dale Earnhardt Jr., his wife Amy, who he's happily married to. Apparently, Amy says Jessica Simpson tried to steal her man at one point. She did go out with Tony Romo, so anything's possible. And John Mayer, I think that's funny. She's just like, oh, hell no. Crazy bitch, you ain't stealing my man. And I think she still has a twinkle in her eye about that. Now, I deny Jessica Simpson from walking up on here. And I hate to say it, but I'm just all here for this kind of stuff. Makes me smile. Okay. Wow, we're running hot. Gee whiz. Eddie Bauer headed to the graveyard? The Amazon, eBay, Temu, Express killing another long-term sporting retailer. Not good. But what is good, I'll leave you with this one. San Francisco just had the Super Bowl, even though the Super Bowl was actually in Santa Clara. It's cool, though, the tech billionaire, I'm not sure which one, but is like donating $5 million to revitalize San Francisco's Tenderloin District. If you've ever been to the Loin, if you've gone to Deadhead shows and other cool stuff, you know about the Loin. It's especial. I love that somebody's putting their money where their mouth is and putting $5 million towards making it a better place. I know it's been about a decade and change since I've been there. Last time, it was some Damnation Alley kind of shit. So, good for the Tenderloin. Okay, folks, we're on the tracks and the Express is going full steam. When we return, we'll take a look at what's happening on campus on the other side. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan here. Ice cold chilling like a funky cool Medina. Fabulous Friday. TGIF in it. Yeah, we're rolling. I mean, it's going to get wet up here. A little bit interesting weather-wise over the next week or so. So we were actually able to go out on the e-bikes, off-trail, get some sights. So I'll get some more cool drone footage in. As far as Aftershocks goes, it was cool with that friend of the show, Andy G and Eagles Nest One. Yeah, we're out on the Ridgeline Trail having some fun today before it gets all wet and muddy. Even though I almost biffed it a couple of times, didn't. So we're ice cold chilling on this weird Friday the 13th. Okay. Well, since I did have the drone out, we're going to let the homies and homettes have a break this week. And we're just going to bring the drone back out and fly it over the U of O. And that'll give us the check mark for being able to fly over the campuses of America. So let's get to it. Where we are right now, this time of the year, as things really transition or the focus switches to college basketball as far as what's happening on campus. It's so weird how you get later in the week and all of a sudden stories start popping out and you have to alter the outline. And it's like, oh my God, I got to think on the fly because this is way better than anything I was going to talk about originally. Yeah, go figure. So let's start with this one. The Big Ten, and I don't know if this is official. The way I understand it, this may be a proposal that they are floating. Because, I mean, I guess the SEC floated one that was 16 teams as far as expanding the college football playoff. The Big Ten's proposal, apparently, which most of the 80s are cool with, would be a 24-team playoff with no conference championships. The top 8 teams would all get a bye. As far as how it breaks down after that, whatever. Interesting. So it seems that this is where we're going. I don't know if this brings more sanity or more chaos. It probably brings more chaos, but I will say this. If it's executed properly, with mind to the calendar and working in conjunction with the NFL, so we get mass product and you all get the profits you're desiring, yeah, okay. It's something that I'll be curious to see if everybody's on board with. And looking down the road, the kind of entertainment options at that time of the year where we just get to eat, drink, be merry, and watch good football instead of shitty bowl games. And NFL games where we have teams that have a third-string quarterback facing off with another third-string quarterback and people doing their version of load management, getting ready for the playoffs. Okay, I spoke on Aftershocks, number 3. Go to our YouTube channel and check it out. Like and subscribe while you're there. Tell your friends to do so as well. Talked about, Benedico, the cat from Alabama. That was a win for the NCAA. But of course, in a eerily similar situation, a judge in Mississippi rules that Mr. Chambliss can return for a 6-year, granting him an injunction to play. Oh my word. Because you know why I'm saying oh my word. Guess what school the judge went to? The judge went to Ole Miss. Yeah. In the same situation as Benedico in Alabama, with the judge being a hardcore Crimson Tide backer. And what the NCAA is going to have to do, they're going to go to a higher power, and they've said they would. And the lawyers keep getting rich, and the kids stay in limbo. And, I don't know. I think it's wearing people down. I've heard even, Whitlock say today, well, shit, if they want to come back, I guess what's the big deal? Good for the Korean co-cell and Coach JB. Be with me, just like, oh, this is absolutely nonsense. Forget about the fucking COVID year. Forget about every weird thing you can come up with to get yourself another year. 5 years. Let's have some sanity. For 5 years, you can make some good money, have the great experience, but after that, get your ass out of town. Go get in the NFL, UFL, somewhere else. That is not unreasonable. Get it in stone, make it law, so these jackasses can't keep coming up with cockamamie reasons to get some judge, and especially if the judge went to your school. Well, hell, if he can get some natty, hell yeah. British Petroleum, as they say. Wow. Okay. Maybe not so much for BYU standout Parker Kingston. I mean, this whole thing with the rape allegations seems like it's getting pretty deep. Ooh. Never good there. I always try to keep that out of TMCA times. What was the punter's name? Was it Manariza? Is it? Want to let these things play out. It's like with the kids many, many years here in town that played for the basketball team. Oh, yeah. Not good, though. Okay. Let's lighten it up here. Let's go to what's actually happening on the field of play. The number one Cats getting knocked off by Kansas, and Kansas was missing their best player, arguably one of the top 3 players in the nation. So props up to the Jayhawks. So that means the only unbeaten D1 program standing. How about that? The Red Hawks of Miami, Ohio. Ain't nobody worried that they used to be called the Redskins there. Great story. If you see that Nebraska stumbling again this week. Another good story would be my man Rick Pitino passing Roy Williams to be number 3 all time behind Coach K and Coach Boeheim. Lots of props there. Okay. Now this is another one. This is how some of these episodes there's a recurring theme. And here we go again. Just watching the herd. And, he likes to bloviate, obviously to help his network. So I have to take everything that comes out of his mouth with a grain of salt. And I'm talking about Colin Cowherd. He was like, oh yeah, college men's basketball ratings are topping the NBA. And I thought to myself, based on what? Because that most of us are not going to call you out on it. Even though some people have called him out on his phony takes. But he's saying there's never been a warm weather dynasty. And someone goes, the 49ers and Cowboys aren't in warmer climate zones of the country. And he's a future narrative Colin. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, hell, I've seen 4 or 5 programs where people were naming, the top 5 players in men's college basketball. And nobody did what I just did. The kid from Kansas, what's his name? So that tells me that they're not having these insane ratings. Well, I'm sure people are watching it because another recurring theme. You can fucking bet on it. Not in this state, but in other states you can. And with all the cockamamie stuff going on with the prop bets, and I told you the other day about the Big Ten Student Issues Commission making a recommendation that those things should be banned. Man, I still can't believe this thing with the Shambles, Ole Miss. Wow. But yeah, if it's so that you're drawing more than the NBA, and I spoke at length and will continue to about the NBA and its ongoing, I don't know what you call it, malaise. If the ratings are truly higher, why would that be? When there's no indication you're moving the needle whatsoever frigging ever. Am I lying in that regard? You tell me. FTINFX@gmail.com. Leave a message with what you think, 541-525-0896. Because make it make sense, please. Okay, jeez. How about the Pac-12 releasing its football schedule this week? It's finally happening, y'all. I'm so curious. Hopefully, some people I know are going to be putting some ventures together as far as content goes. Who knows? Maybe I'll get to be a contributor. I'm looking forward to seeing what this actually looks like now that we're, what, seven months and some change away. Hell yeah! Okay. The madness never ends when it comes to the auction block. Coach Signetti, or Coach Sig as I like to call him, the headset that he wore when Indiana beat the Canes to snare their first natty, still improbable in most folks' minds. Well, somebody had to get that headset that he wore. It was up in an auction, and it went for $112K. Now, do you love your Hoosiers in this moment so much it's worth $112K to have that headset? Man, this world is, as they like to say, this world is so cooked if you continue to see things like this. Once again, I'd love to know $112K, and what are you going to do with this fucking headset? Pardon my language. Okay, lastly, give it up for Florida State. Charlie Woods, that's where he is going to play golf at. Wonder what his NIL deal is going to look like, especially the eyes are going to be on that campus, because it surely ain't about the academics. Like, hey, how can we bring somebody to this campus that can attract the money media machine? Everything else be damned. So this should be an interesting partnership with Charlie Woods, Tiger's son, and the Seminoles. Definitely gonna beat anything that's happening on the football field, especially with the current administration in place and what they've been able to achieve, which is not much. Ouch. Okay, folks. On that note, we push on. When we return, we'll hit you with something you should probably know. See you in a sec. All right. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Watching Rory Boy, who's tied for 17th. -9 today, 67. Well, before we start talking about Pebble Beach, the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, one of the favorite stops on the early swing of the tour, let's talk about last weekend first. The biggest party in sport, perhaps, at least American sport, the WM Phoenix Open. What a finish that was last Sunday before we got to the Super Bowl. It's kind of funny because I was out making wings and legs. I had my tablet up. I'm like, it's done with soccer. I'm like, well, let me just watch this golf out of the corner of my eye. And it went to a playoff where Chris got her up. His furious challenge basically on Sunday. He shot a 64. And this led to a playoff with Hideki Matsuyama, which got her up 1 sudden death to take the WM Phoenix Open. But of course, that wasn't the only fireworks going on at this incredible tournament that just brings out all kinds of funny stuff. Now, over the weekend, it was kind of related to this. There was 109 arrests for DUI. That's a 36% increase from last year. So much for toning things down, huh? That's what they were hoping. They were like, hey, we gotta like put a lid on this. There was like 40 other arrests for who knows, fighting, indecent exposure. Yeah. You don't get the label being one of the biggest parties in American sport without a little shenanigans on the side. Just saying. Okay. Keeping an eye over here. We got Patrick Reed. We've talked about him along with Brooksy coming back to the PGA Tour. I think with Patrick Reed, it's still being worked out. He sent a message to everybody, though, winning the Masters over there in Qatar. Said, hey, when I come back to the PGA Tour, I'm all going to be about business. Standing on business. Yeah. We get the big weekend here. First, non-NFL. NFL's parked its vans into the barn, the warehouses. So we've got the NBA All-Star Game. Daytona 500, the Great American Race. We already had the clash and the duels. Like Ryan Preece. It was very dangerous conditions as far as the clash goes. It got pushed to like Wednesday because of the weather. And yeah, almost running on a sheet of ice. But yeah, Ryan Preece. Whoo! We've got Kyle Busch sitting on the pole. And mind you, this is a weird prelude to like Dale Earnhardt all those years that he'd won everything else, but he hadn't won the 500. And this is going to be Kyle Busch's 21st start. He's done everything else but win the 500. Obviously got, the trials and tribulations that Denny Hamlin's going through. A lot of good storylines. It's cool to see Joe Gibbs talking about it with B. Mitch and Finley, the 106.7 in DC, big Commanders. B. Mitch played for the Commanders for reference. But yeah, they were talking to Joe Gibbs, and Joe Gibbs and his other career as being a great NASCAR owner with Joe Gibbs Racing, giving his perspective on the great race, and he made a smile. I met Joe Gibbs, once or twice. He's a wonderful man, and it was cool to hear him talk about the great race. He said, we got to get the corner man back in the Foxhole to have our annual talk about motorsports. I'll be working on that here soon. Okay. It was also cool to see first things first at Daytona the last 2 days, especially yesterday, and their show, which is pretty football-centric. Give these guys props. And not only do they have the Kyle Busches, Clint Boyers, and other great NASCAR personalities, they made an obvious attempt to do their homework and speak very knowledgeable about the event. Give Fox and FS1, their props for really trying to promote the event. And why not? This is the first big weekend after the Super Bowl. I like their dedication to it. The only negative would be Broussard. You don't have to always be so freaking woke. It's like, oh yeah, I can see Bubba Wallace, his moment. Come on, man. Stop it with that nonsense, man. You should come on. Root for that guy, period. I don't give a shit if he's aligned with Jordan and all the other nonsense. But other than that, I did like, first, things first, really going at it and being genuine. It wasn't really phony, manufactured. It was very cool. Okay. So, just keeping an eye on F1, not getting too far away from the track. kind of like the table's being set. You got Lando Norris taking the early lead as far as preseason testing goes for F1, picking up where he left off. Max Verstappen not happy with the next gen F1 cars, saying they're like Formula E cars, you know, the electric ones, but only on steroids. So stay tuned for my conversation with the corner man so we can really nail some of this stuff down. Okay, boxing. Forgot to mention about Shakur Stevenson winning his 4th belt, somehow getting one of his belts taken away because boxing just is a joke. And it's not surprised that it took me a minute to register Shakur Stevenson picking up his 4th belt. Because now that you don't have Jake Paul, boxing's incapable of moving the needle. It is. I mean, Tank Davis with his legal trouble, where he at? Yeah, I just don't know about this particular sport. I mean, it'll always be around. But I was thinking, how is anybody going to make any money in this sport when you've got people who are doing pretty good stuff? You know, I mean, winning a 4th belt, that's no small feat. And it got very little love. I mean, sure, you'll see someone like the Korean co-seller Steve Kim talking about it on his Twitter feed. But hell, I don't even think they spoke about it on their web shows. Just saying. Speaking of lunacy, how about this one? Floyd Money Mayweather, suing Showtime, claims the network stole $340 million from him. We're always talking about that big bag of cash. Now, his accounting and him being silly allowed Showtime to fleece him for $340 million. Brother, you got some serious issues up in your accounting department. Somebody ain't watching the store. Okay. So now we have an idea as far as the Rumble on the Gala to celebrate America's 250th. TKO, yeah, that TKO Promotions says there'll probably be 6 to 7 fights on the card. Should make for an interesting evening. Can't wait to see what spectacle emits out of this. You know, John Bones Jones, he says he still wants in, but I have to ask how. If reports are true that he needs a hip replacement. You get that bad of a hip, brother, you need a hip replacement. Last thing you need to be thinking about is bringing your ass back into the octagon. Okay. This is an interesting one coming up. The United States Track and Field Championships, which are no stranger to Eugene, where we do this podcast from, Tracktown, USA. The 2026 edition is going to be in Gotham. Yeah, the Big Apple. ICANN Stadium. So you know this ought to be a spectacle. Hopefully our friend, not on the show, but just really like to talk about her because she can't stay in the headlines, Sha'Carri can get her act together and maybe reinvent herself in the Big Apple. And it'll be coming back to Eugene in 2027. Okay. You know the Olympics are going on. I haven't been giving it the love it probably needs to. You know, decompressing out of football and trying to figure out how to cover basketball. As fucked up as the NBA and men's and women's college basketball currently is. But I do know this. You know, the Battle of the Blondes, like many great hyped up stories, often you don't get what you want. And Michaela bombing out and not getting medals again, leaving her wallet in the hotel room, and then the whole thing with Lindsey Vonn blowing herself up, getting carried away from the stretcher, and all the internet conspiracies that go around. Who had this on their scorecard? I mean, I'm not laughing because, you know, Lindsey Vonn, you know, tough battle that she's going through with the major injury there. I mean, a lot of folks are like, why are you doing? You're being selfish. You denied. Yeah, forget about it. She had an opportunity. She made the team. Sometimes it's not a rose garden. You'll all survive. Obviously, the men's and women's hockey team for the U.S. are doing what they do. U.S. making their way up the leaderboard as far as medal count goes. So I am kind of paying a little bit of attention, but it's hard. The Winter Games ain't quite what they were when we were kids. I can definitely say that. All right, folks, we are really cooking here. When we return, we will focus on the association with the dumpster fire it truly is these days. See you momentarily. All right, welcome back to the Foxhole. Yeah, we're feeling that groovy. As we see Jordan Spieth shooting a 68 at Pebble Beach today, tied for 10th, minus 10. Yeah, cracks me up. Does that guy ever age? Okay, well, let's talk about the association and what's going on with the kings of the court. Well, we find out the CP3 was moved after his not pretty divorce from the Los Angeles Clippers. He was traded to Toronto. I think Toronto goes, hey, you're not going to show up. And instead of prolonging the misery, Chris Paul announces his retirement today. Good for him. It's a great career. No, he didn't get any champagne, but he will be remembered as an NBA great. It's fair to say. Crafty, often a pain in the ass, a mentor, a divisive figure, part of one of the more controversial trades that didn't happen in NBA history. Yeah, enjoy the ride into the sunset, Mr. Paul. CP3. It's been a hell of a ride. I'm sure we'll probably see you on TV or something like that, or maybe you'll go into coaching. It'll be interesting to see what your next act will be, because we see Blake Griffin, he's stone cold chilling over there on Prime. All right. And then there's this thing with this Dallas investor group apparently wanting to partner with Mark Cuban and take complete control of the Mavericks back, which would make a lot of sense with some of the moves that are happening, especially getting rid of AD, not rushing Kyrie back. Maybe we've got something completely different in the works as far as how to build around Cooper Flag and what the Mavs will look like in the future. Stay tuned there. Okay, I will save this bullet point for a closer look, because we're going to have to really dig down on this one. But in the meanwhile, I'll throw you another chia seed. How about Kevin Durant this week coming out and just basically saying, oh, yo, man, don't blame the old heads for this all-star game malaise that all you folks in the pod sphere and the talking heads on TV seem to always come at us with. He's pointing the finger at guys like Joker and Luka, who turned this thing into okay, I don't give a shit about the All-Star game. I'm not going to even pretend. I might as well lie on the floor like Larry Bird did when he was having back trouble. Ooh. So, kind of nice that KD already just saying, nah, man, the All-Star game falling apart. Hey, on me and LeBron and CP3, that gen. Now, that's on these busters. And y'all give the Euros way too much of a pass. Interesting point indeed. Okay, I mentioned this the other day on Aftershocks 30. This whole notion of Jason Tatum coming back for this possible playoff run. Still haven't heard much more about that since then. I'm still marveling at the Celtics at number 2, not missing a beat, beating good teams, unlike the fucking Lakers. Pardon my language. No, Boston is a great story, and I think we're taking it for granted. Oh boy, it's like Bill Simmons and company. I know I said the other day, what did I call Ben Simmons? But Bill Simmons causing all kinds of interesting tremors in the pod sphere and beyond this week. Just have to add another chapter of Celtic City. It took me way too long to watch it, but I'm glad I did. Okay, there have been some interesting things that have been happening on the floor. Oklahoma City beaten by Houston on, what was that, Saturday. Then they beat the Lakers on Monday night. There's no Luka, no SGA, so whatever. I talked about the whole Lakers and Spurs on Aftershocks. Everybody is spitting on that, as a turning point, calling the NBA and Commissioner Silver's leadership out. Yeah, that's just all over the place right now. We're talking about it early in the week. I mean, speaking of the Lakers, LeBron telling the world what everybody knows. They're not that good. Last night, case in point, we had another one of those who cares triple-double, because having a triple-dub in the NBA, gee, it doesn't really move that register as much. Not saying it's easy, but unlike with Magic and John Stockton, guys like Russell Westbrook and the Joker being able to average a triple dub for a season, well, you get the point. Okay. See, Monday, you had the Pistons and Hornets throwing blows, suspensions out of that. Homie came who came off the bench. It wasn't about worried about the suspension. I didn't come here to be a part of the bad boy Pistons next gen and be a bitch. Is in effect what he said, and I'm like, oh, okay. That's a Foxhole-esque kind of thing I can get behind. Shit. Yeah. And in that game, the Hornets streak ended. I mentioned on Aftershocks, kind of a shame that the media, the league, not really trying to showcase the Hornets, who could be an interesting out once we get to winning time. You had Harden shining in the Cavs win over the Nugs, and then his home debut where everybody got a beard. Talk about creepy, but Cleveland. They got Shadur the King there, so why wouldn't they give out Harden beards for his debut? Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. Yeah, I swear, man. Okay, Wednesday, the Clippers still making their way back to relevance, even though it's going to be interesting without Harden. They did a back-to-back with Houston. And the second one was kind of interesting because it looked like Houston had bludgeoned them pretty well till Kawhi Leonard decided to say, well, I feel like playing right now, and whatever injuries that maybe nagging me, you wouldn't know it. He had like 19 points in the fourth quarter, and Houston was stunned. That same night, Mr. Wemby, I think they've won, 6 or 7 in a row. They mount a 16-point comeback of the chefless Warriors. Yeah, that was a weird one, but they look pretty formidable. We've seen what they've been able to do to Oklahoma City, which, by the way, we've got to keep an eye on Oklahoma City with Jalen Williams being injured again. They'll check him out after the All-Star break. But if he can't stay injury-free, I don't see them going back-to-back. Not against the San Antonio team that may be green and young, but they've got guys like De'Aaron Fox. They're here for business. Straight business, y'all. what the fuck is going on with Sacramento? Are they like the Jazz straight up tanking? I know they're like a 12, 13 losses in a row. I haven't talked much about them. I need to unpack a little more what's going on there. Gee whiz. The Kings being absolutely shitty. The debacle with the A's. Fun times to be in the capital city, huh? Okay. The All-Star game is going to be missing Chef. Going to be missing the Kang. So let's go into L.A. at Ballmer's Palace, the iDome. Looking forward to it. This is the moment that Mr. Ballmer gets to show off his crown jewel of the NBA right now and give folks another peek into what the future is probably going to look like. The rest of the All-Star game weekend, not so much, but I've got something to say about that. So I'm going to hold off for a closer look as far as that goes. And the celebrity game tonight and some other stuff. And just like, oh, God, grief. But hey, without the NFL and no MLS yet, I'm like, what else do you want me to do this weekend? So, especially it's going to be raining here in the Willamette Valley. So I guess I'll make some good food and grab a adult beverage, curl under the blanket and watch the stuff and have plenty of things to see in Aftershocks 31. Okay. Back one before I part of this segment, back to what I was saying about the Kings, and I have to throw the Jazz in there. I totally agree with Bobby Marks of ESPN that the blatant tanking these teams are facilitating right now, it's truly harming the league. It's the integrity of the league. I'm like 8,000% with those sentiments. I get it. You always want to be able to put yourself in a position to get assets to make you better, whether talent you draft, nurture, and develop, or trade those picks, or use the picks to trade for assets that'll get you back into a contending position like the Wizards are doing. When you're so blatant about it, like I said the other day, the Jazz, where you're in a game and you're leading into the fourth quarter and you pull everybody with the shitty record you have. Come on, Danny Ainge. But then again, you learn from Red, so none of this shocks me. And that's, you know what I mean? All right, folks. When we come back, we'll do some beautiful game life as the train continues to roll on. All right, we're cascading like that today in the Foxhole. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan here, coming to you from Eagle's Nest 2, Studio A. A gloomy day. It's about to start raining here any minute. Really happy that I was able to get out on the e-bike, the Movicon, with a friend of the show next door, Andy G, on Melly Mel's machine, and hit some trails. Got kind of treacherous there a couple of minutes. Glad that I'm not in the ER right now and can record this podcast. So it's been a fun Friday. But like I said, it's time to just chill, do some editing, get an adult beverage, eat some good food, and watch All-Star festivities and maybe some good YouTube. Yeah, when you're old, you get to be boring like this. Okay, let's go pitch side, shall we? Ooh, major stuff going on in the EPL. Yeah, after all, it's the most popular football proper league in the world, mates. We see the Spurs sacking Thomas Frank after 8 months on the job, after they got rid of the other lad. Ain't no patience anywhere in the football proper world. Like, yeah, we've seen enough. This isn't gonna work. And here you go. And what's this? What's my man who used to be at Burnley? He's Sean Dyche. He's out at Nottingham Forest. They didn't like what was going on over there either. And then at United, still trying to figure out if Michael Carrick is the long-term answer. Well, one of the big bosses making too much hay is he's in hot water over his immigration comments, saying the immigrants basically colonized Europe, the UK in particular, and how that could be taken. Interesting times over there. Yeah, which this spills into this next point. The whole thing with first Barca dropping out of any European Super League conversations, and then Madrid and UEFA settling its feud over the European Super League. Now what happens? Well, something must be cooking in the back room. With all the funding that I'm sure PDF and other entities want to bring to the table, and what UEFA saying, well, you got the bags of cash. Let's stop fighting over this. Let's create something sensible. Maybe that's what's going on. I just don't see the big clubs going away in terms of their desire to truly enjoy the big bags of cash all to themselves. Which is interesting because ESPN FC listed this week the best manager jobs. Go figure. City, Arsenal. It's kind of interesting that Atletico Madrid was 3, but given how long Diego Simeone, the man in black, has been there, I get it. Followed by the French national team, Deschamps, soon to be Zidane. England, right now that Southgate. Now you got Thomas Tuchel. Right, then Real Madrid and PSG, where it's more of a challenge because the expectations are so high with the deep-pocketed owners. Like, that makes sense to me. And then you've got Liverpool, followed by the Spain and Argentina national team jobs. So that's an interesting list of what ESPN FC thinks are the best managerial jobs in football proper. Okay. Speaking of Barca and Real Madrid, pretty tight race. I see that Barca leads by 1, but the injuries are mounting because I saw that they get their ass whooped by Atletico Madrid. Speaking of the man in black, I think was it like 4-1 going into the second round of the Spanish Cup. Yeah, what else do we have here? Let me see here. I don't want to lose my place. Inter lead AC Milan by 8. After what was a tight race, it seems like Inter's like, okay, we got this. We're looking to avenge the ass whooping we got last year in UCL by PSG. Speaking of PSG, they brutalized Marseille in the latest La Classique, and Marseille sacks its manager. And then today, PSG turns in one of the more lackluster performances you're going to see. Where the finishing was as piss poor as you could possibly get. And they lose 3-1 at Rennes, which means by weekend's end, they probably will not be atop the L1 table in mid-February. Something to keep an eye on. Over in Liga MX, Chivas Guadalajara lead the Clausura by 5. And it's early. Speaking of Liga MX, in MLS, as CONCACAF Champions League is percolating, San Diego FC eliminating Pumas 4-2 on aggregate. Same thing with Tigres defeating Force FC 4-1. the other MLS teams get into the fray this coming week with my LAFC. Looking forward to that. Something else to chew on here. We like chewing on all kinds of stuff in this particular segment. When it comes to the MLS, a shit league that most folks will say in the peanut galleries, especially the snobby Europhiles that are stateside. But if it's such a shitball league and not a proper league, how is it that 5 MLS teams are over $1 billion in valuation? Inter Miami, LAFC, LA Galaxy, the Five Stripes of Atlanta United, and New York City Football Club, which is getting ready to get a spanking new sick crib over there in Queens that'll be opening up next year. So if this is such a shite league, how is that so that you have 5 teams over $1 billion in their valuation? And don't give me this shit where they own their stadiums. But the fact that they can't own their stadiums probably makes it not a shit league. So maybe y'all take a step back and rethink your optic. Just a suggestion. Here's another interesting one. Newell's Old Boys. Yeah, that Newell's Old Boys. Where way back before Leo Messi became Leo Messi at Barcelona, this is where he got to start. Even though Leo is under contract through 2028 with Inter Miami, they were trying to figure out in the window before MLS goes to the traditional European calendar if Messi could come over there for a cameo, for a stretch of games. Kind of a little farewell present. We'll see what David Beckham thinks about that. Just saying, I can't see it, but hey, okay. We're all about entertainment, spectacles. Like when he was over there, where was it? India, where they had the statue and riots or something like that. Was it India or Pakistan? See, this is what happens when you don't have an intern or assistant like all the people with the other cool podcasts have. They ask, well, here is that. You don't have time to bring it up on the internet. Oh boy, where should I go here last? The MLS is coming here, what was today? The 13th, so we're 8 days away from the launch of MLS, so we're really excited about that. NWSL making news. One league that isn't making news, the USL Women's Super League. Hey, wait, I saw a box score when I was looking at scores in ESPN, so at least ESPN acknowledges it. Talk about a league that is really allergic to any kind of promotion. I mean, where do you watch it? How do you even know what teams? Given the little amount of attention, which makes me wonder about, the USL Premier League. That's going to be, the anchor to this pyramid they want to put together on the men's side of the equation. I know I've asked it many times before, and I've brought this up many times before, and I'll probably bring it up many times again. I want to know. How does this league exist? Games? Is there anybody freaking going? Okay. I will stop being on the soapbox and actually do some research into this and maybe see if I can watch a game just to get a sense of the vibe. On that note, when we return, we will do some Nightfall of Diamonds. See you momentarily. Yeah. Welcome back to the Foxhole. Your faithful host, Kid Harlan here. Episode 301, which I believe that's season 10, episode 13. For those of you keeping score, keep an eye on Aftershocks. 31. And any weekend, if I can get the boys or anyone that's interested for a live stream, that's always on the table. Keep an eye out for content from the lovely SJ and her kick-ass podcast, SJ Gets Down, which I'm a co-host on. The scene, blah, blah, blah. All right, I've pitched my stuff. Let's keep it rolling. Time for some Nightfall of Diamonds, which means before we start talking about what's happening on the hot corners, we gotta hop on the bus and do a little hippie, because that's just our cute way of saying the Dark Star always crashes. But mirror shatters. Ooh-wee, you bisconauts. Say it ain't so, but it is. At each other's throats. Still not able to let go of Alan, and never willing to embrace Marlon, who has gracefully decided to drum for the band as they moved on from Alan. Petty nonsense, which we are humans, so I shouldn't be surprised by it. But given how well the Bisconauts as a tribe have held together with all that band's persistent upping up and just being who they be, it is interesting to see the family get split up over what happened to Alan, who's an incredible drummer. And, while I can tell, I don't actually know the man, but he seems like a really cool guy, good guy. And yeah, it's funny because the train is definitely moving down the tracks. And yeah, the internet, the Bisconaut peanut galleries, that salt would kill you. Okay. They were just on Jam Cruise, and another thing from Jam Cruise was really cool to see. How about MMW, Medeski, Martin, and Wood back on the stage since the first time? I think it's been 2022. It was cool. Definitely need to pull some videos and see what that's all about. Always a pleasure when they're doing that voodoo that they do. And then, the Deadhead Bus, which thankfully there are no news to report there. I mean, I'd like to hear about some releases from the archive, but nothing about John Mayer trying to take the Wounded Bus further. No talk about that, but it is cool to see that Congressman Jared Huffman, I think he represents Marin, he delivered a 1-minute speech in Congress, barefoot, in honor of Bob Ware. How about that for your Jerry Garcia tie? All right, folks. Mirror shatters, Dark Star crashes. We're off the hippie bus. Now let's talk some real Nightfall of Diamonds. Unfortunately, we start off with a somber one as Terrence Gore, a journeyman utility player, got a ring in the Cracker Jacks COVID championship the Dodgers won in 2020. Played for other teams. Kind of in that Herb Washington vein. Teams always liked him because, very nifty on the base paths. Died at 34. Way too young to be leaving us. Our condolences go out to his family and friends. No doubt. Okay. I think I'm going to leave this next bullet point for the next Aftershocks. I think that's where it belongs. I need to really give some deep thought. So let me move on with this. Let me talk about Scott Boras. That Scott Boras. Super agent. Basically calling out MLB. Saying, yo, bitches, you dropped the ball. Right? The NBA, tried to run itself from the ground, can still get a $76 billion media rights deal, and we're getting scraps. What are we doing here? Is what Scott Boras is saying, and the Foxhole says, yeah, what are you doing? But I don't think MLB right now has the cachet that the NBA does to make that happen. I mean, how many of these networks that are regional that MLB is going to have to take over? Because the whole thing with FanDuel and ballets and all that shit going into the sewer. And so all this talking about, oh, we've got the numbers and it's so popular. It's like, if so, you wouldn't have this bull jive in terms of getting the product to the people with such a headache. Disagree? Drop me a line, FTINFX@gmail.com, 541-525-0896. I'd love to get your opinion on that. Hell yeah. And MLB announced this week that they are looking to curb pitch stealing. Interesting. You know, all the chicanery that goes on in baseball throughout time. You know, cork bats, iPads, banging on the damn trash can. You know, right? Dodger fans of old will tell you the only reason why the Giants in the moment at Coogan's Bluff even happened is they were stealing pitches and all this stuff. Baseball's going to try to curb that by limiting how far the first and third base coaches can peer down the field in order to be able to steal these signs. Let's see how that goes. Mr. Manford, always tinkering. You got to give him that. Okay. Movement. This is an interesting one. And that never-ending quest to possibly be the last person we'll ever see get to 300 wins. Mr. Verlander is continuing his career in the Motor City. The $13 million deal for 1 year. I may have mentioned this the other day. I may not have. I'm mentioning it now because it's like, more I think about it. Yeah. It's going to take some work, but it's not impossible for Verlander to get to 300. It'd be cool because I don't think we're going to see that too many times given the way pitchers are handled this deep in the 21st century. Okay. Not so good news for the Mets, and their superstar shortstop Francisco Lindor is facing possible surgery. He's got some hand issues, although the Mets brass are pretty confident he'll be in the lineup on opening day. I don't know what to believe. You don't have to believe anymore. But I guess when we get closer to the opening day, we'll see if this is going to be a long-term problem for the Metropolitans. The Diamondbacks' Corbin Burns is hoping for a mid-summer return from Tommy John surgery. Isn't that interesting how way back in the day, you know, Tommy John's surgery, you were supposed to be forked. And who knew when you returned? These mopeds, yeah. Don't worry, I'll be back by the Midsummer Classic. We got this, so it's incredible. And the fact that it's probably necessary at some point in your career, and you'll probably be more of a badass after it. Evolution, y'all. Dodgers re-signing Kiki Hernandez, keeping the band together, throwing Max Muncy some money. You got Big Mac returning to the A's in some player development role. Kudos to the A's for bringing him back into the play. You want to see guys like that. I hear Barry might be making a cameo for Netflix on opening day, but the Giants and the Yankees are going at it. Good. Get Roger in there as well. At some point, we just have to embrace that era, especially given how great these guys were. Come on, y'all. Speaking of great, how about the Rangers? There's a giveaway this year which will feature a t-shirt, which is kind of fashioned after a jersey, but it's all bloody. And it's like for Nolan Ryan, and this is to commemorate when he got a bloody lip from trying to fill the ground ball from the legendary Bo Jackson. That Bo Jackson. Oh, it's just funny what they will come up with when it comes to these giveaways. Okay, I'll leave you with this one because everything's still kind of staying the same in the NHL, so I don't need to hop on the Zamboni to take a ride around the ice rink of life. Instead, I'll just give kudos to broadcaster Buck Martinez, calling it a career after 4,000 games in the booth for the Blue Jays and Obviously, all the other stuff he does with the networks. 4,000 games, yo, that's a hell of a freaking career. Okay, folks, when we return, we will come back with a very spicy, a closer look. See you momentarily. All right, welcome back to the Foxhole. Ice cold chillin' like a funky cool Medina. Funky Friday style in the Foxhole. Faithful host Kid Harlan here. Ice cold chillin' for sure. A closer look. Time to opinionate, editorialize, talk a little trash, speak your mind, ramble. You never know what you'll get. Always fun, though. Okay, this week I got a bone to pick. Like I said earlier about Bill Simmons, not Ben Simmons that I mistakenly insulted him by calling him earlier in the week on Aftershocks, but Bill Simmons. Him and Nick Wright. That Nick Wright, the Kansas City Chiefs lover, the Mahomes Mountain lover. They were joking. And of course, the race baiters on the other side of the equation, the conservative side, totally are down with it. So they were just joking about the NBA All-Star game becoming so irrelevant. Why don't we make it blacks versus whites? And I thought to myself, okay, why at a time where we're already at each other's throats would we want to do that? This is funny because I was watching Whitlock's show and he was trying to say why he thought this would be a great idea. I mean, we know what Whitlock's all about. He loves the racial drama, especially anything involving black people. But the other folks who were suggesting this, I know that Nick Wright and Bill Simmons were just joking about it. That no way they want all the nuttiness that comes along with it. And just, thinking along the lines of if that works. There are some, guys out there, if you let the Europeans play on the white team, yeah, it could be interesting, and people think people would take it seriously. Like, this isn't the Celtics of Larry Bird playing the Lakers of Magic Johnson and Kareem and all that kind of stuff, which was in a weird way a black and white thing, an East Coast, West Coast thing. Old school, new school, there was everything involved in that. Something like this to revive the All-Star game and get the race baiters and hustlers and racists going. We've already seen with Caitlin Clark how whack-ball this shit can be. Imagine what would happen if we do it with the men. Or who knows, maybe because nobody's having fantasies about them like Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham, that nobody would even give a shit if the blacks and whites play because the All-Star game is that much cooked. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of reckless to even bring up the suggestion. I'm all for spicy and edgy things, but when we're going to get people agitated at a time where they don't need to be, as we've seen following the events of Minnesota early 2026. Yeah, we don't need any more spice in a world that has become increasingly stressful, maddening, and frustrating for folks. It's like, oh, yeah, so what more reason to get the brothers and Whitey at each other's throat and everybody in between? Come on, y'all. You don't have to be that funny. And those of you who take us seriously and wish for that, shame on frigging you. Ain't nobody needing nothing like that. Okay. More on this after this quick, because I'm sure that conversation is going to amplify after another weird weekend, especially what is it, USA versus the world in this particular format. And I mentioned earlier about KD saying, hey, don't blame on the old heads. I wonder if that conversation is going to elicit a little more effort from these guys. I know I should be tuning into the Celebrity All-Star game that's going on right now, but as we like to say, British Petroleum. Okay, let me flip the script here. Another good point that was fished out, I kind of changed what I was going to speak about today. I was looking at my outline, and that was a good topic, but maybe I'll move it to aftershocks. Because somebody made an astute point about the NFL being the biggest beneficiary of the this college football's transfer portal. And I thought, how so? How's that really benefiting the NFL other than perhaps maybe getting some players who are more finished products? And I sit there and thought about it and go, well, Bo Nix had two different systems. Cam Ward, two different systems. Projected first-round pick Fernando Mendoza, two different systems. I'm thinking, okay, there's something to that, as we've have exalted many times about college football now being NFL junior, and the way the system is set up, with no penalty for switching schools. And, I still stand pat on 5 years or cap it somewhere from you graduate from high school to, in that 5-year window. Stop coming up with cockamamie reasons to give somebody another season. It ain't about the kids. You all want to win and make them dollars and all that weird shit that comes with the Holy Grail. And now that you see Indiana with a national championship, you're even more insane. I didn't think at one point, a friend of the show next door, Andy G, was saying that whoever wins the national championship moving forward, it's not going to have the same prestige as it once did, given all the shenanigans and how watered down this thing is where it is NFL Junior. It isn't the same. I know people will say otherwise, but if you know, you know. So I think the NFL is benefiting. The NFL doesn't care. Just shit, let them play until they're 30. If they can come help us for a season, half a season, get to the promised land, more power to it. I think there is something to be said that it is detrimental to leagues like the UFL, obviously the indoor leagues, any developmental league. Because obviously, if you got some game and you're between 23 and 28 right now, you're going to be making way more mad dollars in college if they'll let you than the UFL or any of the indoor leagues are going to pay you or playing in Canada. That's too bad, for those leagues with this existing system. As flawed as it's going to be. And as I said earlier, when you can find any whackball judge to go along with your fucking nonsense, yeah, you're right. You may have somebody from the last decade who's still NFL caliber. As Whitlock said, well, what's the problem with letting them play? Well, everything's so broken. No guardrails really can be established for a better product, have better quality. I like the pushback, as I said earlier, that you are denying. We're not building any talent. If you're focused on these guys who are between 24 and 28 years old, and you're not developing the high school prospect, like we were talking about, National Signing Day was an afterthought now with the transfer portal. If you're no longer developing the youngsters and giving them the opportunity, it can't be good for your product, right? There's a lot of good, if you're not good enough in this, proposed 5-year window we're talking about, tough titty ladies. Not being unreasonable as far as that goes. Been saying it all along. The NFL will do fine. And maybe kicking you guys out of college will help the UFL, the CFL, the XFL. So you're not getting that NIL fat sack of cash. You're probably not getting as much nookie as you probably would be in some of these lower leagues. That if you're at a Power Five school and you're like, yeah, I'm off that. I am a wolf roaming around the hen house. I know I said it because it's true. It's so true. All right, let's not get all red light up in this bitch. When we come back, we'll close you out with our first off-season, the NFL report, and of course, TMCA time for those bad apples in the fruit basket. See you momentarily. All right, welcome back to the Foxhole. Yeah, got a little, not really somber, but it is something to commemorate the end of the football season. We got there. As I talked about aftershocks, I definitely gave the Seahawks their flowers. What a parade in the Emerald City. A lot of folks, a lot of partying, a lot of profanity, a lot of high energy released. Good for them. It was well deserved. It's been a very class organization, right? Give them, props. Clapping down on Drake May, peeing on Mike Vrabel's big day, Sam Darnold, and Kenneth Walker. Do you have him as your possible MVP on your prop bets? Yeah, man. I said this the other day, I think, about everybody trying to make the Patriots left tackle Will Campbell the scapegoat. Jeff Saturday said it well. Kid didn't play well, but he's a rookie, and Seattle's got it's a complete team. Now, all this stuff about the Patriots having that chicken and dumpling schedule, catching a hell of a break in the playoffs where had a bunch of featherweights, and once Bo Nix went down for Denver, they fell into the featherweight class. So, yeah, this is not a knock on the Patriots. They're with Vrabel, Drake May, and all those bad boys. They're going to be about business for the years to come. Now, Mr. Kraft will see to that. So, yeah, it's great to give Seattle Judy Allen, if she's truly selling the team on her way out. Just a class act. Good for you, Seattle. Okay. I think we talked the other day about Clint Kubiak, excuse me. Man. I think I didn't ask, though. One, how was his departure affect Sam Darnold? But then again, we've seen Darnold go through many different systems. As long as they don't hire a buster, I'm sure he won't miss a beat. That is less of a concern for me. I think the bigger question goes back to the RHBA, the Race Hustlers Baiters Alliance. And does he need to succeed to shut these clowns up? I know you can't shut these clowns up, but you can always throw something like this in their face. When people pitching their agendas and doing their consistent bitching and belly aching, that Guys like Mike McDonald. The Ben Johnson alert. Producing results. After all, isn't that what we're in this for? Results? Somehow the RHBA loses sight of that when they come up with some of their crazy takes. And like I said earlier, the fix may be in because they know it draws you all in and it helps build their social media following and brands. And hey, it's above my pay grade at the moment as far as that nonsense is concerned. But still, I think it won't shut them up. But it'll be empty calories if these guys continue to be successful. And the hollow cries. Although I did see that Brian Flores' lawsuit did get the green light to move forward. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. I haven't had time to unpack that. Okay. I think we talked about Rodgers hinting at coming back at Pittsburgh, and it's driving the Hounds mad. And a friend at our Super Bowl party was I mentioned it. Boy, the temperature shut up in the room like at 50 degrees. Steelers are an interesting organization. I know it's easy to be like Chris Broussard and others and just be, oh, this is terrible. Why are you settling for this? All good questions, fair questions. And what we saw this year of Aaron Rodgers, do we think that the ceiling can be any higher than that? You can get to the playoffs, but you ain't winning shit. This we know. So is that a good thing? Or maybe the Steelers see, this Will Howard, the bridge of a season like this keeps people engaged and entertained as opposed to going to complete shit and really being able to get your hands on a franchise QB. As always, food for thought. Well, I keep hearing all this thing about Malik. That teams really need to go after him. I know that the dumpster fire with Amy Sistrick Adams in Tennessee, Vrabel and all that stuff wasn't a good indication. Coming in where defenses aren't used to, I don't know what that says about his time in Green Bay. I do know that there are a lot of hungry teams out there. The question is, do they want to make that kind of investment like Minnesota followed by Seattle when it comes to Sam Darnold, especially the one with Seattle, mid-30s, reasonable, maybe between 25 and 30. I'm not sure what the market is as far as what he'll command, but I am curious because, there's Mac Jones, who I think is still under contract. But based on what you saw of Darnold, and as I've said, of these other quarterbacks in the 49ers stable, who've been around those smart coaching, what would you be willing to give up? Who's really got a shitty quarterback situation? Oh, gee, did I just say Pittsburgh? Yeah. I should frame the question that way. Do you go out and give up some capital to get someone like Mac Jones? Or do you go with Aaron Rodgers? And maybe you have the quarterback of the future on your bench and this Will Howard guy. Okay. So I'm hearing that the embattled A.J. Brown, that A.J. Brown, he's probably going to be moved before the draft. Not necessarily when the league year starts in March, but the insiders are saying that come the draft time, he's going to be elsewhere. The question is, where? Where can he come in? And because this could be a Philly thing with all the bad juju in that locker room in that building. It turns out it's like, nah, man. We cool now that I'm away from that. But then again, looking at his past, I don't know. I'm trying to give the brother a shout because in the right situation, anybody got to thrive. But wait, you're not a team that won the Super Bowl and should be in contention every year. I don't know. Can't wait to see where he lands, though. Okay. Interesting things to look at as we get closer to the league year starting next month. The Cards, and Kyler. I heard Minnesota might take a flyer there. Tua and Captain Kirk, have to wonder about that. I mean, right now, both are major cap hits as things stand today. So, right, just all I can think. The Commanders voided Debo Samuel's contract, so I have a feeling that kick of the tires. Hey, Adam Peters, you're not as smart as you think you are always. Don't be doing it with Brandon Ayuk. I don't know if it's right or wrong for the Cowboys to tag George Pickens. Yeah. Especially based on what happened this year. It's not his fault. But just the Cowboys continuing to be mediocre under Jerry Jones's watch. I will give the Cowboys' longtime rival, my Washington Commanders, all the flowers for bringing back perennial Pro Bowler. Yes, I'm talking about a punter. My man Trust Way has been just nothing but a baller on some very bad Commanders teams. Class act there, man. He even gave up his jersey to accommodate Jaden when he came into the league. So, got nothing but mad love from some Trust Way. All right. Speaking of my man, Jaden, I gotta ask, because we are at year 3, is 2026 a make or break year for the golden class of quarterbacks? Not make or break, but the bar is gonna get raised just based on what Jaden did in year 1 and what Caleb and Drake and Bo did in year 2. We're gonna want to see marked improvement from all those guys. And Michael Penix, who's really behind, is like, what you done? At least the others can say something, right? Jaden got to an NFC Championship game. Bo got his team, but unfortunately got hurt to an AFC Championship game. Caleb, good success this year with the Bears, and obviously Drake May being in the game with the Roman numbers. So I don't think it's make or break, but I definitely think the pressure's on. The data there for all of you guys in terms of that next contract or moves that can be made. So yes, I do think 2026 is a big year, not necessarily make or break. I think with Jaden, because we saw nothing from you, and they say you're going under center, the microscope may be on you a bit more, and probably needs to be based on seeing nothing from you in 2025. Okay. Gee, water is wet. Kim Kardashian's had plenty of boyfriends, and the world thinks her sister Chloe's a skank, and players are very resistant to the NFL's plan to go to 18 games. Yeah, what's new? It's inevitable. The question is, what are you going to give up if you're going to make us play another game and drag this season to President's Day where it just becomes a national celebration? I am curious to see where that all goes because I do believe it's inevitable. As I said earlier about the Super Bowl next year being played a week from the previous year and being on Valentine's. Yeah. I think this is funny. I was talking about the Rams and their situation here recently. It's like a decade late, but there's finally no one left on the Rams roster from the St. Louis era. Isn't that something? Okay. The trucks are here from the foundry. Yes, those trucks that contain the stainless steel bowls of the smelliest varieties. And we're talking smelliest varieties. You know, they come in complimentary, regular, and XL sizes. For those whose deeds throughout the week have earned that distinction of getting one of these smelly bowls, or as we like to say, them being who they be. Okay, what have we got on tap? Well, I mentioned this clown in Aftershocks and how Commissioner Goodell really needs to grow a sack and put serious penalties behind anybody who is clearly guilty of domestic violence. This is James Pierce Jr. We're going to give you a 3, probably going to be 5 once I find out all the details. XLs, being that dude. I don't give a shit if you had 10.5 sacks. You know, with Mika Jackson, you know, who plays for the Sparks. You know, where people are in fear of her life. We don't need any more of this shit. There's enough talented gentlemen out there that these bad apples kick rocks. Man, I'm going to give an XL to Emmitt Smith. I should have been, this has been a hot minute, but right, you know, gosh, my brain is so awash. You know, she always comes on call-in shows. She's really cool. Anyways, he's talking this nonsense about Shadur and all this stuff. I know Dion's your boy and you played together, but you guys stop. This guy had one of the worst stat lines. Didn't show anything in terms of being somebody who's capable of being a starter in this league. Yeah, there is some stuff on tape that suggests he can get there, but the kind of nonsense that's coming out of your mouth and all these guys about that he showed, our king showed you this. This guy's a clown, and it wasn't for the fact that he can be a social media star and help all of you folks as brands. I know if you're watching the same games I'm watching, yeah, he's an NFL player, but so is Dylan Gabriel. There's not much difference there what we have on tape already. And you added to this nonsense, Emmett, yeah, there's a reason why they don't give you a microphone. Out of your aunt. Ain't nobody got time for that. Okay, where am I here? You know, I mentioned this in Aftershocks about the clown that was losing his mind in the Florida bar because the owners switched to the alternate Super Bowl show in Florida. Come on, man. I know you paid your money, but if you go into a bar, and I'm sure wherever it was in Florida, and you had no idea that Kid Rock and the crew were probably going to be on the menu when it came to the show, and they wanted no part of Bad Bunny, but yet you had to have your viral moment to have all your clicks. I'm giving you an XL as well, man, because as the recurring theme, yeah, you probably knew, and you're just trying to get more clicks for your brand. Otherwise, I'm just not buying you could be that bothered by this. Okay. I've got to give another XL to Real Housewives of New York alum, Jill Sharon. Remember Jill? Getting axed from this upcoming reunion show that they're doing, because she posted a rant about who? Bad Bunny. Folks, get off the internet when it comes to these issues that could get you in hot water, especially if it can cost you a gig. STFU. It's okay to have an opinion, but don't get it online because the internet lasts forever with most people. As for us, like, oh, no, you didn't. But you did, and now you out of a gig because you were a dumbass. Once again, you can't make this shut up. Okay. I'm going to give an XL to Jordan Hudson. Yeah, that Jordan Hudson. You know, Bill Belichick's sugar baby. Don't take a shot at Mr. Kraft with the prostitution t-shirt. You're the one who's the prostitute. You got your fame for lying on your back. And we ain't lying about that. Come on. Man, yeah. It just looks worse and worse for you, Bill. And the longer you keep this on, too bad for the Carolina fans and alumni who are fitting the bill for this. That they gotta endure this nonsense. But hopefully, after he poops the bed again next year, you can relieve yourselves of this misery, and they can go off into whatever weird universe post Carolina will be. Boy, we're just getting salty here. I'm going to give an XL as well of the smelliest varieties to Disneyland for firing the evil queen, she's a cast member, for breaking character. She broke character to give some customers some friendly advice as far as showtimes and when to see what. But she broke character, so they fired her. Come on, Disney. Are we really that serious? Especially when somebody is being helpful. I mean, I could see if she was trying to build her brand or getting some digits from somebody shooting their shot, but otherwise, come on, man. I'm going to give it XL. Man, XL's the theme to this week. To Fox Sports 2. We're cutting away from the CONCACAF Champions Cup match, San Diego and Pumas, to show some college basketball game. And this is why MLS had to take its act to Apple, because you networks cannot treat the sport with a proper respect. No wonder the Euro snobs are able to thrive in their peanut galleries because of stupid shit like this. Keep rocking it, Apple. As flawed as some of this may be, FS1 and ESPN continue to show why they have no business being able to have any soccer properties. Football proper. Okay, what else do we have here? Lastly, I am going to give, because I'm just going to give him a regular. We won't go all XLs here. This guy's just going to get a regular because I feel for him. Can't be complimentary because wait till you hear this one. This is Robert, I believe is it Richens or Richens? Anyways, he's in England. You don't know, but I'm telling you, he's an English resident of England, some valley. Anyway, part of the scenery. Okay. He was charged with the murder of his girlfriend, which is horrific. So we are not making light of that. If it's true, book him, Dano, and throw his bitch ass under the jail. Definitely. But why? Because you're getting an award. You broke down crying. I mean, you had remorse about killing your girlfriend, but you were also bummed that you were going to miss the impending later in the year release of Grand Theft Auto 6. You can't make this up. He was bummed like a little bitch. Yeah, he was bummed that he killed his baby. But yeah, I'm going to be in stir, and Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to come out. I ain't going to get to play. Well, now, that's a fitting way to bring episode 301 to the finish line. As always, thanks for putting up with me. We don't have football anymore. So, gotta get our basketball, soccer, hockey, and everything else to fill the gaps. Conversation's always gonna be interesting, and the flame, well, it burns eternal in the Foxhole. So, we'll see you in 6 to 8 days for this. Look for the next Aftershocks, probably Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, depending on how things work out in the week. SJ gets down, I'll let you know when the new episode drops there. She does what she's got to do. Meanwhile, enjoy some good food this weekend. Definitely some adult beverages. And whatever else puts a smile on your face. Stay sane. Always avoid the bracelets. Damn straight about that noise. So we'll see you soon. All right. Peace, y'all.